On today's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Flip and Steele, it's a little fantasy fallout special, and Steele and I are here to pick up all the pieces and let you know who you should have your eye on down the stretch.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I never get tired of that music, and I hope you never get tired of it either. Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast for Wednesday's episode. It is a jam-packed episode with all kinds of analysis, breakdowns, and looks into tonight's DFS and Big Time Bets board, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much, everyone, for making us your first listen every single day. Steele and I really appreciate it. So make sure you're out there smashing that subscribe button and hitting the follow button. We really, really appreciate it. More importantly, on today's episode, Steele, we're taking a look at some guys that were just recently traded, and now their fantasy value is about to go up in a very big way. Some waiver wire targets that are going to be out there in a lot of formats, I would say, Steele, and some guys that, and you've heard it before, could put you over the top down the stretch because it's time to get this money, pal. Who do you have your eyes on? Welcome back. It's been a big week for us. I'm a little tired, but I'm still here. We're out here. We're making picks. We're throwing targets out there. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. You're right. It's been a busy week. We were going at it yesterday for the trade deadline show. Oh, it was a crazy day. I think there was over 35 plus trades. One of the bigger days in trade deadline history, but you're right. It was a busy day, but a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into.
Yes, sir.
A lot of big guys got traded yesterday, making these playoff teams in the playoff, matchups a lot better than what we were going to see beforehand. Right. The first guy I really want to talk about, he's the new Maple Leaf defenseman, Mark Giordano on the blue line, owned at 55% right now. He's up 11% from last week and just 5% from last night. So he's already his value's already rising. He's got 370 fantasy points on the season, 6 goals, 23 points. He's going from one of the worst teams in the NHL to one of the best teams in the NHL. So we all know offensively, he's going to be putting up a lot more points than he has been with the Seattle Kraken. 23 points on the season, 123 shots, 98 blocks. It's the time is now to take advantage of a guy like Mark Giordano being only owned at 55%, because now he's playing with Austin Matthews. He's playing with Mitch Marner. He's playing with William Nylander, John Tavares, Morgan Riley. He's playing with all these guys that's going to elevate his game as well. So I have him on one of my fantasy rosters, so I'm really excited that he's been traded to Toronto. But
I bet
if he's available in your league, you got to take a chance on Giordano. He's playing with some of the top guys in the league.
So this is something that I think is going to be a reoccurring theme. Well, it is a reoccurring theme with these guys, right? Some of these dudes were peripheral, deep format. Maybe they had some value, and now all of a sudden, these dudes that we're talking about, you have to take a look at them. Depending on how your league is, formatted, depending on dynasty or year in, year out, it really depends. But I don't think it matters too much, because I think there is a ton of value in the players we're going to talk about. And I'll say this before I get into my first guy, Steele. After yesterday and seeing all these moves, there is going to be a couple of very good teams left out right after the first round. And it's going to leave a lot of these players that were just added out early. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm looking at Rakell, Steele. We talked about him ahead of the deadline. We expected him to be moved, almost predicted he went to Pittsburgh. He goes to Pittsburgh, and what's the first report? He is going to play right alongside of Evgeny Malkin. He's going to get a look on the top power play unit, most likely, if not worst case scenario, second. This is a guy that you cannot sleep on. Rakell does a lot of the little things right. People talk about underlying numbers. I talk about doing the little things right. Rakell does that. He can play defense. He kills penalties. He plays a great two-way game. And here's a hot tip for you. Went down the stat well this morning. He sits 25th in the league in shots off the rush, and that's exactly what Pittsburgh needs. They need a winger to generate chances. Owned in 14% Steele. I'm fired up because he's 28 years old, and if he's putting up 16 goals this season on Anaheim, What is he going to do on Gino's line? I say stop what you're doing right now and go out there and add Rickard Rakell, because this guy's numbers are about to go up in a big way.
He's one of the top 5 guys I was looking at as well when, before we jumped on here and started talking about some of these guys that you could potentially pick up on the waiver wire.
Yep.
I doubt he gets first power play time, just because you're talking about Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Gensel, Russ, and Crosby. Like, he might eventually. You just fired up. I love it.
He might play all positions, Steele. It might, it's an extravaganza. No, okay.
Anything can happen. I love the fact that he's on the second line. You're exactly right. They need the chances off the rush. Rickard Rakell is a speedy, a very fast skater. So hopefully, that he can get some chemistry going with Danton Heinen and Evgeny Malkin. We'll get to that for my DFS selections, actually. But the second guy I want to talk about is Andrew Kopp. Going from the Winnipeg Jets over to the New York Rangers. He's owned at 35%, so he's up 4% overnight as well. 393 fantasy points on the season. I was looking at the daily faceoff for lineup combinations. It looks like he's going to be on the third line for the Rangers. I would like to see him potentially move up to the right wing, to the second line with Ryan Strome and Artemi Panarin. We'll see.
That would be nice.
I think that would be a fantastic line, but we'll see what happens. I think they're trying to play things out right now. But 13 goals, 35 points on the season, 151 shots. I believe as of right now, he is not on the power play or the penalty kill, not either the second penalty kill or power play. But I believe he will get an opportunity because he is a very dangerous player on the penalty kill. He loves to jump up and take the opportunities, and he's scoring, I think, 7 or 8 career shorthanded goals so far. So that could be something the Rangers could look for as well. I know they really like their penalty kill players right now, and I believe Tyler Mott is on their second penalty kill as of right now. But I think Andrew Kopp will get the opportunities.
Me too.
And I think it just will take time. So that's who I'm looking at for my second pickup of the week.
Yeah, the Rangers made a lot of really sneaky, maybe not the big moves, but I think honorable mention to them as one of the winners of the trade deadline, in my opinion. You and I have talked a lot about the Rangers, and I think what they really went out there and did is didn't rock the boat, didn't have to lose too many roster pieces, and really solidified the bottom end of that roster. So, we'll see. Didn't they go out and get Justin Braun as well? Where did Braun go? Yeah, so there you go. So a lot of these sneaky good moves. When you have Shesterkin playing this good, don't rock the boat. Give them what they need a little bit and let your boy Igor go. So we'll see what the Rangers can do now, as honestly, we talked about it yesterday. They're rounding into form right now. So let's leave it at that for the Rangers. Let's jump over to the Western Conference. I want to talk about, I think, one of the deals that flew under the radar again yesterday in the addition of Artturi Lehkonen on the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah.
Look, he is owned in 2% of ESPN leagues, and he has 16 goals and 13 assists this year. That's nothing to shake a stick at, especially when you see who he was playing with in Montreal on a team that we know that's been well documented how poor they've been this year, aside from the last couple of weeks with Marty St. Louis. But it's almost like he played to leave there over his last 9 games, 6 goals, 20 shots, 3 assists, and playing great. With Gabriel Landeskog sidelined, it's already being discussed that he might be slotted in on the top line in Colorado. He's going to get a look in the top 6 at the bare minimum. I'm not going to sit here and predict which line he falls on, but it's going to be good for his fantasy value. If he lands on that top line, Steele, we know he's got a lack of size. I'm not saying Lehkonen's one of those guys you go out and draft in the first few rounds of your draft, but at this point of the season, you cannot sleep on the opportunity that Lehkonen is about to have on the Colorado Avalanche, people. Go out there and add this guy right now.
I think that's a big issue for a lot of fantasy owners out there. As we talked about this back in January, a lot of fantasy owners don't want players on struggling teams because they don't think they're going to get enough points. But we've seen it. The Arizona Coyotes, you could go out and get Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, Shane Gostisbehere. Montreal Canadiens, you could get a few players as well. The Seattle Kraken. So you can find these sneaky guys from these very, very bad teams that can still help you on the roster. And I'm not saying you got to keep them for the entire year. Use them for 1 game. Use them for 2 games. Drop a player, pick them up, and then pick up the player that you dropped again the next day. Like, it's very simple. Exactly. That's how you win fantasy leagues, and that's how you win on a week-to-week basis. You need to find these underlying guys who can help your fantasy team help your matchups. And then again, you just got to use them for 1 or 2 games, drop them and go get another guy. That's how you win.
Exactly. And Lehkonen is one of those guys, a complementary piece that, hey, you pick him up, he chips in for a couple of weeks, or hey, he doesn't. No skin off your back by the addition of a guy who might play with Mikko Rantanen and Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah.
Stop it right now and go out there and add this guy at 2%. That makes no sense to me. People in deeper formats know about this guy's talent. Like I said, he's not a top 10 round guy, but he is a complimentary player who can put the puck in the net. And now watch what he does and watch his fantasy value go through the roof. But what I do want to talk about is something that can come to your door. HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers pre-portioned ingredients right to your door, including farm fresh produce that arrives within a week. Get convenience without skimping on quality. Skip the trip to the grocery store, saving you long waits in lines and ensuring you don't waste any money on excess food. Customize your favorite dishes with their new Hello Custom offerings by swapping out one protein or a side for another, upgrading for a more luxurious experience, or even adding protein to a veggie meal. Let's get weird. That means more choices, more variety, and more meals truly tailored just to you. Go to HelloFresh.com/LockedOn16 and use promo code LockedOn16 for 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. I'll say that one more time. Go to HelloFresh.com/LockedOn16 and use LockedOn code 16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. HelloFresh, it's America's #1 meal kit.
Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out Locked On Now Podcast, nightly recaps of every NHL game. You don't want to miss the highlights. I know I never do. Every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available on all podcast platforms, just like this podcast right here. So make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all the love and support out there. So thank you so much for riding with us. And let's get right into the DFS selections here. 4 games on the schedule for Wednesday night.
Okay.
You know, there's a couple of intriguing matchups. You know, the first game, I think it's a very obvious. The Toronto Maple Leafs versus the New Jersey Devils. We've seen the last 2 times that they've matched up. The Leafs have outscored them 13-5, winning both of those games. You know, I got to go with the new guy for the Maple Leafs, Mark Giordano. So that's going to be one of my blue liners for this matchup, but I'm throwing Matthews and Bunting in there as well.
Hey.
And I'm not just going with the Maple Leafs. I'm also going to pick a New Jersey Devil if I can afford him, and that's going to be Jack Hughes. Flip, you're kind of shifting my mindset here on Jack Hughes. I might have to put him a little bit further up on my top 5 list for under 22 years old or under.
Yep.
He's been absolutely fantastic to watch. Every time he's on the ice, he is so skilled and so fast. And it's just ridiculous to see how he's able to control the puck while skating the way he does. So for me, in this matchup, Matthews, Bunting, Giordano, Jack Hughes, I think all of those guys are clearly going to be over $5,000. But if you can afford all 4 of those guys, you got to take the matchup because we know that this is probably going to be a high-scoring game.
I'm glad you said that, my friend, because I was about to say, you know me when it comes to DFS. We've talked about this all the time. We connect our picks in DFS to our bets, and I'll save everything because I know you're going to like my bets tonight, so I won't get too much into it. But I also see this being a high-scoring game, and I know Eric Kallgren had 2 great starts to start his career.
Yeah.
He's still a rookie with 3 games of experience under his belt. There is going to be a lot of growing pains until Jack Campbell comes back. Guys like Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, down that lineup, you could find some sneaky good value in these guys. There might not be as high of a price as Jack Hughes, but I think that this being a high-scoring game, I don't think you can really go wrong with either of the top 6 forwards from either team here, depending on how much budget you have. But what I would say is definitely stay away from any goalie in this matchup.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going with the goalie because where I'm looking at for my tender is the Penguins versus the Sabres matchup well. You know, you were talking about Rickard, Rakell, and that's why I was saving it for the DFS selection. That's exactly who I'm going with as well.
Okay.
My goalie option, I'm going with Tristan Jarry or Casey DeSmith, whoever's going to be in net, because I think against the Sabres, I think it's an easy dub for the Penguins. But for my players, I'm going with that second line, Rickard, Rakell, and Danton Heinen. I don't think I'm going to be able to afford Evgeny Malkin because of my first players in that Devils Maple Leafs game. But I'm taking the chance on Rickard, Rakell, and Danton Heinen. I really think we've seen this in the past with the one or two couple of moves that Penguins do. It really helps them for, down the stretch for the last 15, 20 games of the regular season and going into the postseason as well. So Rickard, Rakell, 28 points on the season. He's getting a fresh start with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm going to take the wingers on that second line, Tristan Jarry, and if I'm able to afford him again, Chris Letang on the blue line.
Man, it's funny that, so you mentioned taking two guys that have just been added to new teams in Giordano and Rickard, Rakell. And I was going to say from a DFS side of things, and I don't know this because, I've just recently in the last year or two started playing DFS so heavy that I don't know what the immediate impact is, right? Like, are these guys going to come in and click right away, or are they going to take a couple of games? So I was going to come on here and say, take it easy on these new guys from a DFS perspective.
Never take it easy, Flip.
Steele's in here saying, F you, Flip. I'm going full steam ahead, Fast and the Furious 9, 10, and 11. That's okay. And I hope it pans out because I'm not even going to disagree with you. I just hope it pans out. So I like where your head's at. And what else do you got?
Yeah, we'll go for there. There's a couple more games on the schedule, but I think the Toronto Maple Leafs versus New Jersey Devils, the Penguins versus the Sabres were the matchups for me. You've got the Colorado Avalanche versus the Vancouver Canucks. You got the Blackhawks versus the Ducks. With the way the Blackhawks handled the trade deadline, I don't think there's really much to go off of. Based off you could go with DeBrincat, Kane. They're still great players, but I think with the matchups, we've seen how well Toronto does against New Jersey. And the Penguins are one of the top teams in the Metro still. So they made a couple of big moves, acquiring some offensive players that can help them up front. I like the Penguins versus the Maple Leafs matchup, but of course, you can go with guys like Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, find some cheaper options from those Blackhawks and
Artturi
Avalanche
Lehkonen,
game.
Perhaps?
You could go with Artturi Lehkonen. Full steam ahead, Flip. Full steam ahead. It could happen, but for me, I'm sticking with the Penguins and the Maple Leafs for my DFS options. And what you should be sticking with, or if you haven't, you should be going with, is Built Bars. Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, contains 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein. I love having these before I work out, after I work out, pretty much just any time in the day. They are so flavorful. There's so many different flavors to choose from coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, my all-time favorite, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many, many more. In fact, Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors. For example, ruby chocolate, lemon dipped cheesecake, and caramel almond delight. So check out Built.com often to see what's new. If you go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. I'll say it one more time just so you remember it. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, which also includes YouTube. So make sure you hammer the subscribe, hammer the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all the love and support you give us out there. So thank you so much for that. With that being said, it's now time for Big Time Bets, where the money is made. Flip, you're absolutely killing me this last week. You've been absolutely rolling with the locks of the nights.
Thank you, sir.
I've been doing pretty well. My record is still trending in the right direction, but I cannot seem to get the lock of the night locked down. I've just not been hitting them.
Sometimes it happens, man, honestly. And I think I was saying this to you the other day. I'm a little bit up there in age on you. I got a few more years in the bank, but sometimes you just can't hit picks. And you're not even doing that because you're still hitting other picks. So it's just like, you can't put your finger on certain ones. Yeah. I would say go back to the basics. I'm intrigued to see what you have today because you're still picking winners. So at least you know what I'm saying? It's be different if you're going skunk show every night.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say today. And I teased it to you off air. I think you're going to like my picks. It's not going to take long because I'm going with the big flip triple dip. and I'll hit you with all three at once if you'd like. Let me hear what you have to start.
No, you go for it. You go. Give me all three. Give me all
All
three.
right, baby. I'm going to give you all three. I'm keeping things simple. The Toronto Maple Leafs look awful in the last 3 games, okay? Straight awful. Losses to Arizona and Buffalo were hard to watch from a Toronto Maple Leafs fan's perspective. And I'm going to say this. This team needs to show out in a very big way with schedule winding down, and they are, running out of opportunities to get easy 2 points in the bag. There's not going to be too many of them. This is one of them against a team that they have absolutely smacked around in the last couple of games. 7-1 last time, and they've won 8 out of their last 10 against the New Jersey Devils. I will start with Toronto Maple Leafs on the puck line -1.5 for +100. I see this being a big statement game, one in which, Steele, that we talked about being very high scoring. The number is at 6.5. I feel comfortable taking that number, especially because New Jersey is on the second night of a back-to-back. So you either have Nico Daws in there for 2 games in a row, or you have John Gillies. Either way, I'm loving that for an over. Also, Toronto sitting at home rested for 4 straight nights, ready to go. I expect to see the best out of this team. And if you don't steal, I would be very concerned as us Maple Leafs fans, because this should be a spot that they come out and absolutely steamroll. So Maple Leafs -1.5 on the puck line. I'll take the over as well. And you know who I got to round it out with. Number 34, Austin Matthews, is basically the only reason the Maple Leafs have been able to hold it down since the All-Star break. He has been sensational and red hot again. Let me have a quick look here. 9 goals and 2 assists over his last 6 games and 39 goals in 40 games for what should be the Rocket winner, no problem, and I hope the Hart winner as well. Triple dip, big flip special. Leafs on the puck line, over 6.5, and give me Austin Matthews, anytime goal scorer as well, for my lock of the night.
I really thought you were going to be going with the Penguins for your triple dip here. I was kind of surprised you were going with the Leafs, but I like the Matthews anytime goal because that's exactly what I went with too. That is my lock of the night. Matthews anytime goal scorer against the New Jersey Devils. Yes. My other 2 picks come from that Penguins-Sabres game. I'm taking the Penguins on the puck line. I think it's a no-brainer. The Sabres they're good against certain teams, but I think against the Penguins dominate them. And I'm taking a Crosby anytime assist as well. He's just too good. He sets up his line mates, especially on the power play. Every time you've picked Crosby anytime assist, it hits. So for me, I'm going Crosby anytime assist, Penguins on the puck line, and my lock of the night, Matthews anytime goal scorer.
Yes, sir. Man, I don't think there's many times we've taken a lock of the night the same, and I definitely can say with confidence that we have never taken a anytime goal scorer as our lock of the night. So tonight is going to be.
I took Alex Ovechkin goal scorer anytime, and he hit for me.
No, I mean the same anytime goal scorer for lock of the night at the same night. So I'm intrigued, and now I'm really going to be watching a Wednesday night New Jersey Devils Toronto Maple Leafs game. You know I'm going to have some money down on that. So much love for for what hopes to be a really exciting night, Steele. And you know what? Just because you're out there, I'm gonna sprinkle some on the Penguins as well, just for you.
All right, love it. Hopefully your other triple dip can hit like that Vancouver one you had before.
The Vancouver one hit, and I took the Detroit Red Wings triple dip, and I got 2 out of 3 on that one. So my triple dips have been pretty good.
Pretty solid. So Flip and myself's lock of the night. Anytime goal scorer from Austin Matthews against the New Jersey Devils. Pencil it in, lock it in. Put your money down. He's been scoring lights out this season. Rocket Richard, hopefully the Hart Trophy as well for Austin Matthews, number 34. Thank you for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every day. If you want more gambling advice on what you should pick, but for not just hockey, make your second listen Locked On Bets. Locked On Bets, daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all podcast platforms, just like this podcast right here. So make sure you go subscribe and follow us, and you'll get the latest episodes of Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast as soon as they're available each and every day, Monday to Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Thank you again so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.